In this video, we're going to look at four problems that relate to the cost of quality and quality improvement, cost of quality reporting, those sorts of things. So the first exercise is 17-50 on page 761. PIM Industries, Inc. manufactures electronics components. Each unit costs $30 before the final test. The final test rejects on average 5% of the 50,000 units manufactured per year. The average rejection rate of the industry is 3%. A consultant has determined that poor lighting is the most likely cause of this high rejection rate. It would cost $100,000 to install adequate lighting in the assembly department, which would be useful for 5 years. The adequate lighting, which will cost an additional $5,000 in operating costs per year, the firm expects to reduce its rejection rate to no higher than the industry average. And question number one is, should the firm install the lighting? That is, what would be the projected benefit, the 5-year impact on operating profit? Show calculations. All right, so this is 17-50, part one. Okay, so we're going to take, you can approach this on a per year basis, or you can approach this on a total 5-year basis. Either way works. I'm going to do it on a per year basis. Okay, so we've got 50,000 units times we reject. Now, what we do is we reject 2% more than the average rejection rate. We reject 5, and the industry average is 3, so that's 2% above. So 0.02, and when we do that, so we reject 1,000 units more than the industry average. That's per year, and those are times $30. That's the cost before it gets to the inspection point. So that's going to be a cost of $30,000 a year in extra rejection, right? Excess rejection. Okay, our cost of improvement with the adequate lighting would be the $100,000, but that's good for 5 years, so that will be $25,000. Would be that. Okay. Sorry, it would be 20,000 with that. And so then we add to that the 5-year, the 5,000 operating costs per year, or 25,000. So we would improve profits. So we'd decrease rejects by 30,000. It would cost us 20,000. Would be 5,000 per year. Over a 5-year period would be 25,000. So either way you want, you can do that. So that's part one of that. And then what other considerations might we want to take into consideration? Reputation would be one. Morale, having work rejected, that sort of thing. The increased lighting may increase productivity, not just quality improvement, but may increase the speed that workers can work. There's another number of things that can go into that. So that takes care of that one. Our next one is 17-52. And on this one, we've got Pack and Go, a new competitor to FedEx and UPS, does intra-city package deliveries in 7 major metropolitan areas. The performance of Pack and Go is measured by management as delivery time. Number 2 is on-time delivery rates, defined as agreed on delivery date time plus or minus a specified cushion. And 3, percentage of lost or damaged deliveries. In response to competitive pressures, Pack and Go is evaluating an investment in new technology that would improve customer service and delivery quality, particularly in terms of items 2 and 3 above. The annual cost of the new technology for each of the 7 metropolitan areas served by Pack and Go is expected to be $80,000. You have gathered the following information regarding delivery performance both under the existing operations and after implementing the new technology. Okay, so the on-time delivery rate currently is 80%. It would be 95%. The variable cost per package lost or damaged will be $30 in both cases. The allocated fixed cost per damage per package lost or damaged is $10. Now remember that's allocated, so we don't take that into account. Remember that allocated fixed cost when you're doing that. And then the annual number of packages lost or damaged. Based on a recent marketing study commissioned by Pack and Go, the company estimates that each percentage point increase in on-time performance rate would lead to an annual increase of $10,000. The average contribution margin ratio for packages delivered by Pack and Go is estimated to be 40%. Okay, so number 1 wants us from a financial perspective, should Pack and Go invest in the new technology? That is, what would be the estimated net change in annual profit to the nearest whole dollar if the company makes the proposed investment? Okay, so we would go from 80% to 95%, so that's a 15 percentage point increase. Each percentage point is worth $10,000 in revenue, so that would be $150,000 times the contribution margin ratio of 40%. So we would have $60,000 increased contribution margin from implementing the system. So that's the effect on the revenue side of thing, but that's not the only effect that we have. We would also have 200 packages less lost. We'd go from 300 to 100, and each one of those is worth $30 each. So that would be $6,000. Let me check that. 30 into 200 times, yes, $6,000. So our increase in profits would be $66,000, and the cost, we are told, the annual cost of the new technology would be $80,000. So we're actually $14,000 worse off to implement this system. So on a purely financial basis, we would not want to go ahead and implement the system. Okay, number 2 says based on the data collected by Pack and Go, the company is fairly confident about the reduction in costs associated with lost or damaged packages. However, because of uncertainties in terms of pricing in the markets in which Pack and Go operates, It is less sure about the predicted increase in revenues associated with the implementation. What is the break-even increase in annual revenue to the nearest whole dollar that would justify the investment in the new technology? Okay, so we've got $80,000 on this, minus the 6,000 cost savings from the lost packages is 74,000. Now we just have a CVP problem. Right, we take the 74,000 and divide it by the 40% contribution margin, and we get $185,000 would be the necessary increase in revenue in order for us to invest in the system from a financial standpoint. And what other factors might affect Pack and Go? Obviously, reputation, dependability, all those sorts of things come into play on something like this. All right. So that. Okay. Our next one is 17-53. And in 17-53 is a cost of quality reporting problem. CVI Inc. had November sales totaling $4,200,000, incurred the following quality related costs. And it says we had spoiled work in process, inventory disposal, 28,000, downtime due to quality problems, 24,000, field test of the new computer, 74,000, support of a customer complaint department is 26,000. Okay, so what we need to do, remember from your reading that in the cost of quality reporting, you have 4 different levels of cost. You have prevention, you have appraisal, you have internal failure, and you have external failure. Now, very briefly, what are each of these? Prevention are costs that we incur trying to not have problems going forward. Things like training of employees, inspection of raw materials when they come in, things like that. Appraisal is like equipment inspection, inspection of parts, that sort of thing. Internal failure is when we find it out, but it doesn't get into the customer's hands, so we have scrap and rework. Those sorts of things are involved. We might, like if we had a spill of a toxic chemical, we'd have the cleanup cost, but it only happens within our factory. It doesn't get out to the public. There's no external cost. And external failures are when our defects get into the hands of customers. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to categorize each of these. So I'm just going to go across appraisal. Let's start with prevention, appraisal, internal failure, and external failure. All right, so we just go down each of these. Spoiled work in process inventory disposal, that is an internal failure. and that was 28,000. Okay, downtime due to quality problems. That's also an internal failure, and that was 24,000. Field test of the new computer. That is an appraisal. And that was 74,000. Next one is support of the customer complaint department. That is an external failure. And that was 26,000. Squeezed on that one. Product liability insurance, that's external failure. And you say, why is that external failure? Because our insurance rating is going to depend on our experience. The less of these that we have, the lower the cost becomes. The next one is quality training. That will be a prevention. And that is 12,000. The next one up is reinspection. That's an internal failure. And that was 13,000. Rework, that's an internal failure. And that was 8,000. New vendor verification and facilities inspection, that would be prevention. And that was 25,000. Technical support provided to vendors, that would be prevention. Is 4,000. Equipment inspection is appraisal. And that's 20,000. Test and inspection of purchased parts, that would be appraisal. $32,000. And finally, warranty repairs, that's external failure. And that was 22,000. All right, so we add these all up. And for prevention costs, we get 41,000. For appraisal costs, we get 126,000. For internal failure costs, we get 73,000. And for external failure costs, we get 66,000. Now, if we add up all of these across, 41 plus 126 plus 73,000 plus 66,000 is going to come to 306,000. Okay. So 41,000. We get this is 13.4%. 126. That will be 41.2%, 18%. 73 divided by 306 is going to be 23.86%. And finally, 66 divided by 306 is 21.57%. All right. Okay, so some observations. The idea on one of these, looking at one of these quality cost reports, is that you increase spending in the prevention and appraisal to decrease costs over here. Well, our appraisal costs are already pretty high. So, what we might want to do is to increase our prevention costs, hoping, so and this is just an example, say a $10,000 investment in prevention costs may save us 25,000 in appraisal costs down the line, that sort of thing. But the idea is you get more bang for buck. You want to eliminate these external failure costs as much as possible, if you want to have a quality product on that. Show you that for a second. All of that. All right. The next one that we have is 17-54. And that's the relevant costs on quality improvement. And we've got the Destin Company produces water control valves made of brass that it sells primarily to builders for use in commercial real estate construction. These valves must meet rigid specifications, i.e., the quality tolerance is small. Valves that upon inspection get rejected are returned to the casting department. That is, they are returned to stage one of the four-stage manufacturing process. Rejected items are then melted and recast. As such, no new materials in casting are required to rework these items. However, new materials must be added to the finishing department for all rework valves. As the cost accountant for the company, you have prepared the following cost data regarding the production of a typical valve. So direct materials, the casting is $200, finishing is $12, nothing for materials for inspection, and $8 in packaging for a total of $220. Direct labor is $110 for casting, $120 for finishing, $20 for inspection, $20 for packaging for a total of $270. Variable manufacturing overhead is $100 for casting, $150 for finishing, $20 for inspection, and $20 for packaging. Allocated fixed overhead is $70 for casting, $80 for finishing, inspection is $40, and packaging is $10. The company, spurred by intense price pressures from foreign manufacturers, recently initiated a number of quality programs. As a result, the rejection rate for valves has decreased from 5% to 3.5% of annual output, equal in total to 15,000 units. The reduction in reject rates has enabled the company to reduce inventory holdings from 400,000 to 250,000. Destin estimates that the annual financing cost associated with inventory holding is 12%. What are the estimated manufacturing cost savings per year associated with the reduction in rework costs? Okay, so So the rework cost is going to be of a article is going to be direct materials will be the 12 from the finishing. We don't have to worry about packaging. Then we've got the direct labor, so that will be 110 for the casting because it still has to be done. Be 120 for the finishing, that has to be done, and another 20 for the inspection. And the variable manufacturing overhead will be 100. Will be 100 in the casting, will be 150 in the finishing, and 20 in the inspection. So if we add that up, we get $532 to rework a single valve. Okay, so $532. Oops, 532, and the number of valves we had is 15,000 times 0.015. That's 5% down to 3.5%. That difference is 1.5%. That would be 225 valves times $532. And I get $119,700 is the cost savings. So that's part one. Okay, number two, what is the annual financing cost savings to the nearest whole dollar? So part two is going to be the reduction from 400 to 250 is 150,000 times 0.12, 12%. Would be $18,000 in financing costs, and provide a dollar estimate of the total cost savings. Well, it'd just be these two added together. Would be 137,700. All right, so that's your quality control costs analysis video. Let's see, we've done 4 in this one and 2 in the Taguchi loss function. So I think I got 4 more problems I want to work for you in another video. We'll call this video good here.